This is how to play Terraforming Mars, which is a tabletop game for 1 to 5 players, and each game runs about 2 hours long. The objective of the game is to acquire the most victory points, which can be earned a few different ways. First, by raising a global parameter, which means to place an ocean in one of the reserved areas, increase the oxygen by placing a greenery on the board, or increasing the temperature by paying 8 heat. When a global parameter is raised, the player also moves up 1 spot on the terraforming track. Some cards have victory points on them that count at the end of the game if they've been played. Any greenery placed on the board is worth 1 point at the end of the game, and any city on the board is worth 1 point for every greenery that touches it, regardless of who placed that greenery. For example, this city is worth 4 points for the red player because it's touching 4 greeneries. There are also milestones and awards that a player can unlock, but only 3 of each can be unlocked in the game. A milestone must be earned before the player can pay 8 mega credits to unlock it, which gains that player 5 points at the end of the game. Awards can be unlocked by any player as an action on their turn by paying 8 mega credits to unlock the first one, 14 mega credits for the second one, and 20 for the third. At the end of the game, each unlocked award earns 5 points for the player leading in that category, regardless of who paid to unlock it, and 2 points for the player in second place for that category. To start the game, place a marker for each player on the designated spot of the terraforming track. Each step on this track counts as 1 victory point, so all players begin the game with 20 points. Global parameters are set to 0% for oxygen, negative 30 degrees for temperature, and the 9 ocean tiles are placed on the marked spot. Each player is randomly dealt a corporation card, which gives them their starting mega credits and a special ability which is explained on the card. Each player is dealt 10 random project cards, which they examine before deciding which ones they want to purchase for 3 mega credits each, and the rest go into the discard pile. The money markers are worth 1, 5, and 10 mega credits. Now players gather their resources based on their corporation card and place them onto their personal player boards. For example, this player would begin with 36 mega credits, 3 plants, and 2 plant production. Anytime there is a brown border, it means production of that resource, as opposed to when there's no brown border, which means the player just collects that resource one time. This player doesn't have any steel, titanium, energy, or heat production, so those spots are marked at 0 production. This game is broken into generations, and players replenish their resources at the start of each new generation by collecting the number of each resource equal to their personal production. They also gain 1 mega credit for the number on the terraforming track that their marker is on. So this player would gain 22 mega credits, 2 for their production and 20 for their terraforming rating. Finally, each player draws 4 project cards and chooses to either buy or discard any number of them. Player 1 begins the game by taking 1 or 2 actions. Then the next player takes 1 or 2 actions, and this continues until all players are done taking actions. Once a player passes or takes no action on their turn, other players continue to take actions, but that player is done for that generation. Once all players are done taking actions, the generation ends. All players replenish their resources, and a new generation begins with player 2. Here are the possible actions a player can take. They can use a standard project, which means paying to do one of these 6 things. They could claim a milestone, they could fund a reward, they can convert 8 plants into a greenery, which raises the oxygen 1 step and raises the player's terraforming rating 1 step. They can convert 8 heat into a temperature increase of 1 degree, which also raises that player's terraforming rating 1 step. They can also play a card, and to do this, the player must pay the value listed on the top left of the card, and then place that card in front of them face up on the table. Some cards have minimum requirements that must be met before they can be played. When a card is played, everything written on that card happens as a single action of playing the card, unless otherwise indicated on the card. Most cards have tags on them, which generally trigger an action or an ability. For example, players can use steel in addition to mega credits to pay the cost of a card with a building tag on it, and each steel is worth 2 mega credits. And finally, a player can tap a previously played blue card to perform the recurring action. Once all global parameters are met, that is the final generation. Players should still replenish their boards though. There is one final round of placing greeneries after replenishing, but this can only be done by spending plants. Cards cannot be played and money cannot be used to purchase greeneries in the final phase. Now players should add up the victory points from their played cards, milestones, awards, cities and greeneries on the board, and add them to their terraforming rating to determine the winner of the game. And that's how to play Terraforming Mars.